Well, here we are. It is now November, and I'm going to be discussing some of my favorite films, whether holiday or not, that I watch in the November and December season. The October horror season is officially ended, and now we are moving into the light holiday spirit season. And I like a lot of movies. I have a lot of films I watch this time of year. And as I said previously, some holiday, some not. It just works for me. And today I'm going to be discussing the Godfather Saga.
You have to answer for Santino, Carlo.
Just part one and two. Part three has its own movie. Maybe it's okay. I never really got into it. I think they missed their window when they made it. They waited too long. And I'm not trying to knock Francis Ford Coppola. Who am I? It's just how I feel about it. So I've always grown up watching part one and two, whether it was the theatrical cut or the Godfather Saga, where they edit it chronologically. Both are amazing. I don't know why I watch this around November. Maybe it's because AMC has been airing it and it just feels that way, but I think it goes back deeper when I was younger. I come from a heavy Italian family. So on Sundays, we would make our gravy, our pasta, our meatballs, or whatever.
Then you throw in some tomatoes, some tomato paste, you fry it, you make sure it doesn't stick. You got it to a boil, you shove in all your sausage and your meatballs. Huh?
So I distinctly remember my dad had a box set of the Godfather Saga VHS section. So I remember watching it, and it would always be on like a Saturday or a Sunday. My family would be making dinner, and I'd be on the kitchen or the living room floor, and I'd be watching these movies in my pajamas, and I was enamored with them. So I think it's just a distinct memory, and it's a nostalgic thing for me as to why I watch these films around this time of year. Cozy, it's cold outside, you got this long movie on, there's just something about it. And in part one, there is a kind of a Christmas touch to it in the first part of the film. You have Kay and Michael walking down the streets of New York before he finds out the father was shot. You have Sollozzo taking Tom Hagen to this Christmas tree stand area to confront him. There's some slight holiday vibes in that movie, so that could be a reason why I also watch this around this time of year. So that could also be a reason as to why I watch it this time of year. But it just, for some reason personally, The Godfather, this is the only time of year I like to rewatch this movie. Now, yes, is it cliche to say The Godfather is one of the greatest movies of all time? Is it cliche to say The Godfather is one of my favorite movies of all time? And when I say Godfather, I am referring to part one and two, because a lot of people like to separate them, but I do look at them as almost one film, just because they're so cohesive and there is an overreaching arc, and it just works. So I do tend to refer as The Godfather. But I will separate it as best as I can going forward. Like I said, when you think about The Godfather, a lot of people say, it's cliche to say it's the greatest movie. It's always, it's become a cliche because that's how good it is. But you take aside all that, at its core, this is a very well-produced, well-directed, well-shot, well-acted, well-written film, all around. I mean, you take out Sonny's ghost punch, which has become iconic in itself, in the fight with Carlo. It's pretty much a perfect movie. So as I stated, this film's got amazing writing, directing, cinematography, score, acting, etc., etc., etc. So there's a lot of facets of these films you can look at. There's a lot of characters you can look at. There's a lot of memorable scenes, countless. I mean, it's embedded into our pop culture.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
But the core of this film, where I think you can really navigate the story and see its bones, is the arc of Michael Corleone. He's the core of this film, from how he starts to where it ends. You have Marlon Brando as the father. You have Robert Duvall. You have John Cazale. There's just a million different actors, but it's focused on, at its core, Michael Corleone's rise to power. And it's so brilliantly done and so realistic. And I think Al Pacino, in my personal opinion, this is Al Pacino's best role, even though it was one of his earliest roles. But he's perfect for this part. And like I said, in the beginning of the film, we meet him, and he's a war hero, which makes it believable later on that he's able to kill somebody. And he's pure somewhat. He's innocent. The father wants him to have nothing to do with the family business. He wants him to be legitimate. As he says, Senator Corleone, President Corleone. He wants something better for Michael, and that's an interesting aspect to the Don. That he knows that his empire is really criminality. So he wants his favorite son, and I hate to say favorite, but you can see that it is. Even though he loves all his children, but he knew Michael was the smartest, which he hoped would keep him out of the business. But circumstances arrive. Early on in the film, we see the complex mechanics of the families, the dynamics between the rival families. Sonny seems like he's going to be the head of the family, but he's got a hot temper. Fredo is obviously the weaker one. But there's no real leader per se, and that's where Michael comes into. So I'm not going to discuss the plot step by step. I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty details, but I will talk about certain moments and certain aspects and themes that I find really interesting. So you have Michael and Kay. They're at the wedding for the sister Connie, played wonderfully by Talia Shire, that guinea brat. And, we meet Michael, and he's with Kay, and he basically brings her into the family.
You never told me you knew Johnny Fontaine.
Sure. You want to meet him?
Huh? Oh, well, sure.
My father helped him with his career.
He did? How?
Starting out, he was signed to this personal service contract with a big band leader. And as his career got better and better, he wanted to get out of it. My father made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
What was that?
Luca Brazzi held a gun to his head, and my father assured him that either his brains or his signature would be on the contract. That's my family, Kay. It's not me.
That's her first realization that, all right, this is a little crazy, especially with all the glitz and glam. I mean, they live in an incredible mansion. This isn't like your Goodfellas mafia. This is your romantic, well-dressed, high-class, 1930s mafia, and they show that with, the estate and the security and the cars and the glitz and all the famous people. It's just really just comes across as like another level, There's something romantic about it. I can't really explain it. So, a little later in the film, Marlon Brando's character gets approached by this ex-con, Sollozzo, who's good with the knife.
Sollozzo is known as the Turk. He's supposed to be very good with a knife, but only in matters of business with some sort of reasonable complaint.
And he wants to offer the Don, into the drug trade, this new opportunity that's arising. But Don Corleone wants nothing to do with it. So Sollozzo, disappointingly leaves. Sonny thinks he's crazy. He gets scolded by the father. And, we are realizing that as much of a criminal empire Don Vito Corleone runs here, there's also a part of him that is untainted. He doesn't want drugs. He doesn't want to mess around with the kids. He doesn't want, to bring the mafia down into the mud. And he's right in a sense, because that's what the drug trade and that's what these lower level opportunities did to the mafia. They're still criminals, but it did drag them down and basically ended their glitz and their prestige, I should say. So eventually there's a hit on Don Corleone. He winds up surviving, but, Sollozzo's convinced he's killed. So he's making a power move with the other families to kind of take out the Don. Michael finds this out with Kay, as I said earlier, in the newspaper around Christmas time. Tom, the adopted Irish son, who's the consigliere, the lawyer of the family, meets with Sollozzo, and he gives him all the terms. But then we find out that Don Vito's still alive, to the utter disappointment of Sollozzo and the family that wanted him dead.
He's still alive. They hit him with 5 shots and he's still alive.
Well, that's bad luck for me. And bad luck for you if you don't make that deal.
So we know they're going to try to kill him again. And this is kind of where Michael's first moment of family involvement happens. He shows up at the hospital. All the guards are gone. You know, we learn the cops are paid off. So obviously there's going to be a hit that's coming. And Michael basically takes control in his own right, tells the nurse, this is what we got to do. He recruits a baker who is just dropping off some flowers to help him pretend that they're standing guard. And he basically deters the hitmen from entering the building. What's very important in this scene, and it occurs early when Michael gets to the hospital after he tells the nurse, you know, do you know who my father is him getting next to his asleep father and telling him, I am with you now, Pop, or something along those lines. It's very symbolic and very significant of where Michael's trajectory is now headed.
I'm with you now. I'm with you.
And then the cop shows up, the dirty cop, punches Michael, and we have this whole fiasco. Now, the family is now meeting, trying to figure out what to do. Sonny's all about the war. We got to kill a bunch of people, blah, 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 blah. And there's a moment in this scene where they're trying to figure out how to get back at Sollozzo and where to do the next hit, fight back against the other family. And there's this scene where they're all in the main office. They're talking about what to do. And in the background, you have Michael sit down in the seat, cross his legs. He lights a cigarette. And it's very subtle. But this is where you see his slow transformation into this. And he comes up with this plan. We got people on the newspaper rolls. We'll set up a meeting with Sollozzo and McCluskey, the cop. And what does Michael say?
Then I'll kill them both.
And I'll kill them both. And everybody starts laughing. Sonny's like, are you kidding me? This isn't the military where you shoot somebody from afar. You got to get up close. But Michael's serious. And I think Tom sees that. And this is his first power move, because he's a natural leader. He's smart. He loves his family. And he's seeing, I think, subconsciously or consciously that, there's no one making really good decisions here, so I'm going to take control a little bit. So flash forward, Michael goes to the restaurant. We're at the famous scene. He winds up killing the guys. And that whole scene's incredible, by the way. I mean, you have him in the bathroom looking for the gun that Clemenza was supposed to leave him. They hold the beat for a little bit where his hand's up behind the stall or the flush box, whatever it is, and you're for a second thinking, oh, there's no gun, but he finds it. You have the train sound building up the tension.
Mettiamo tutto a posto. Sti fissaria. Siete finiti.
That whole scene, there's something beautiful about that scene. And not the killing, but just like the old Italian restaurant, the tablecloths, the vibes, the dishes. It's just, and this is for the whole movies in themselves, how well done they are in the sense of, it feels, I don't want to say it feels like a documentary when you're watching it, because the cinematography is very blatant and it's beautiful. The choices are amazing. And this plays along with the whole film, both films, how the cinematography is incredibly consistent, and it has like this. Like I said, the shots are very blatant, they're very chosen, they're very beautiful, but it also has a very 70s documentary feel to it in a sense. And that's Gordon Willis, an incredible cinematographer who also did Apocalypse Now for Francis Ford Coppola. So we will get back to the cinematography of the films, but basically, Michael kills the police officer, kills Sollozzo, he has to flee to Italy. And this is the whole second section of the film. Michael's over in Sicily. And then you got the repercussions of the mob war back home, where now there's a lot of stuff going on. Michael eventually meets this girl in Italy. He falls in love with her. They start a life. And Kay, Diane Keaton, his previous lover at home, he kind of just walks away from him in a sense when he gets involved with the family. The last we see her is he leaves her at a dinner or something. And then while he's in Sicily, she comes looking for him. But Tom gives her the old, you should have called, Kay. That iconic line. I mean, every line in this movie is iconic. Both movies. And while Michael's in Sicily, you have the whole situation back at home where, you have Sonny's death. And Sonny is baited by Carlo, the abusive husband of Connie. I mean, there's so many characters and so many stories in this film. I can spend 10 hours talking about it, but I'm trying to really give you the Cliff Notes version here. And Sonny's brutally killed when he's baited by an abusive moment for Connie, where Carlo beats the heck out of her. She calls Sonny, and in his angry, hothead rage, he's like, screw everybody. I don't care if there's a mob war going on. I'm going over there by myself. So he gets in a car, drives over there, and at the toll booth, he's annihilated by a bunch of guys with Tommy guns. It's brutal. So Michael meets this girl in Italy. He starts this marriage with her, falls in love, and they're getting ready to come back to America, but eventually she's killed accidentally when a car bomb is planted in his car meant for him. So now this is a huge blow to Michael, and I think from this point on we maybe see him smile a couple times. And again, it's the evolution of this character. He's on his rise to power, but he's also morally declining. He's getting colder. And it's played perfectly by Al Pacino. So now Michael's home. He meets up with Kay. He's in charge of the family business. The Don's still alive, but he's slightly declining. He's going into retirement, doing his thing. And eventually he passes away in the iconic tomato garden sequence with the little kid, which is super realistic, super interesting, super well shot. There's really not a complaint in this movie.
Come on. I love you.
After he passes away, we have the funeral scene, which I'll touch on real quick. This is where Michael figures that Tessio is the rat, the one who is setting up his own death, because his father said whoever arranges the meeting will be the rat. And you have that cool sequence, but Michael's ready to handle business.
Mike, can I have a minute?
And eventually, Michael does the famous hit on all the five families. His father passed away. He's in charge now. Connie wants him to be godfather to his child, her and Carlo's child. So you have this sequence where he's doing the ritual at the Catholic Church, and in between we're cut back and forth between this crescendo of shots where all heads of the five families are killed, including Mo Green out in Las Vegas, where they sent Fredo. And you have that whole iconic sequence prior to the big hit where Michael goes out to Las Vegas to meet with his brother and to tell Mo Green, we're buying you out, causes a little bit of a rift. And at this point, Michael is very, very cold. Still loves his family, still slightly there, but he's all business right now. And he actually tells Fredo, don't ever speak against the family ever again, because Fredo got loud when the whole Mo Green confrontation happened. So we flash back forward. He's becoming godfather, and at this Catholic Church ceremony, he has all the five families, the heads of them, annihilated in coordination.
I do renounce him.
And he's taking care of family business. And it's an amazing, memorable montage, I guess you would say. And it ices his moment as who's going to be the new Godfather, a ruthless leader in the mafia. We go from this war hero, young guy, young brother, young son, who wants nothing to do with the family business, whose father wants him to have nothing to do with the family business, and becomes this ice-cold mafia leader, mafia boss, I guess you should say. And, let's not forget, too, when Don Corleone gets out of the hospital before he recovers and goes fully into retirement, his whole family's coming to visit him in his bed in his bedroom, and he asks, this is after Sollozzo and McCluskey were killed, and Michael is in Sicily, he asks his sons, Sonny, Tom, and Fredo, where's Michael? And Tom says, Michael's the one who killed Sollozzo. And you see the expression on Don Corleone's face, like eye roll, like, are you kidding me? you know, his heart broke there, you know, and now he knew there was no going back, and he knew Michael would be the one in charge, and this is not what he wanted. But, you know, with a wave of the hand, he kicks them all out so he can have grievance in his disappointment. So now we're kind of at the end of the film, and like I said, there's so much I haven't touched on, but I'm really trying to keep this brief because this can be a saga, no pun intended. And we have the whole thing with Carlo, where Michael comes in the room and confronts him. And this is a really badass scene. You know, you got the Judas Crow in the background cawing. You got Michael and his crew coming in with their hats. You got the, hello, Carlo. You know, and it's brilliant because he wants a confession from Carlo, right? And he offers him a drink. He's nice to him. And he says, we know what you did. We know you had Sonny killed. And Carlo starts breaking down. All he wants is the name of the person that did it.
Mo Green, Stracci, Cuneo. Today I settle all family business, so don't tell me you're innocent, Carlo.
You know, so he learns it was Barzini. And then he takes the drink away from Carlo, and he becomes ice cold. And he tells him, get out of my face. And in the car, Clemenza kills him. So Michael has his brother-in-law killed, his sister's husband, and he doesn't think twice about it because it's revenge for Sonny. You know, as he says, you got to answer for Santino, Carlo. So Connie's all despondent, freaks out, runs to the house. You killed Carlo. You killed my husband. So Kay, you know, the naive wife who's kind of blinders on, you know, wants to know if this is true. So she confronts Michael in the office, and he says, you have one opportunity. I'll let you ask me this one time. And he lies right to her face.
No.
No, it's not true. And now she leaves, and you have the iconic shot where she looks down the hallway, and they're all kissing Michael's hand because he's now the new Don. And his arc is not complete, but his arc to Don is. And they shut that door right on her face. And she's locked out of that life. Now, clearly, there's a million scenes I haven't talked about. Iconic scenes, iconically shot scenes, iconically written scenes, from the producer and the horse head in the beginning, to the whole wedding sequence in itself, to Johnny Fontaine, to Tessio, to just the countless interactions between the characters, from Fredo's trip out to Vegas. And as I said earlier, I'm not going to go into the details, specific plot points of this movie. I just want to give a Cliff Notes version because it's an amazing film, but it is a saga, and we don't have all day. But I hope you enjoyed this, and I think if you haven't seen The Godfather, you should 100% go see it immediately. And my part 2 video will be out in due time.
Tom, can you get me off the hook? For old time's sake.
Can't do it, Sally.
Thank you.